One of the most frequent complaints I hear about the 13th Doctor is how she supposedly lacks depth or complexity to her character. Now, whether or not you feel this to be a legitimate problem is highly dependent on whether mopey, pseudo-intellectual, am I a good man, Clara type bullcrap about the Doctor's dark, morally ambiguous side is something you feel is an essential core element of the character. Personally, I don't. We've already spoken more broadly about Moffat's faults as a showrunner. Today I want to examine one aspect of his writing in particular, which is his inability, or stubborn unwillingness, to follow through on his ideas, both in terms of plot and thematically. This is a trait that can be traced at least back to the end of Series 6, where the Doctor gets out of the Silencer's assassination attempt by faking his own death on the beach. Oh, but there are going to have to be changes, we are told. The Doctor has been getting too noisy, drawing too much attention to himself in the universe. Of course, if Moffat had actually followed through with these ideas, then there would be some actual weight to the Doctor averting his death. However, as we already established last time, there are no consequences to anything in Moffat's universe. So by the time Series 7 comes around, that plot thread has been effectively dropped and the Doctor is back to living his life exactly as before, even though the concept of him keeping things on the down low and pretending to be dead held a lot of potential, and I would have really liked to see that. By far the worst example of this, though, comes in Series 8. Now let's put the series in context. The Doctor has just gone back and completely changed his past, rewritten history so that instead of being destroyed, Gallifrey is saved. That's right, the traumatic event that has been a central driving force to his character arc ever since the revived era began has been undone. Just like that. Now, putting aside for one moment what a terrible development that is narratively speaking, what sort of state of mind would the Doctor realistically be in having saved Gallifrey? Probably feeling confident, full of hope and faith, believing there is always a way to save the day, no matter what. But instead, for some incomprehensible reason, we take a dramatic backwards thematic shift, where the Doctor is instead mopey and cynical, pondering if he's a good man, Clara. We even get a deja vu moment from Series 1 about the Doctor being a good Dalek. But we've already done all this, Moffat, and it made sense with Christopher Eccleston, because that was right after the Time War and he was suffering from PTSD and still believed Gallifrey was lost. That context removed, it just looks like exactly what it is, forced angstiness for the sake of itself. Let's get one thing absolutely clear. Being angry at Nazis and wanting to shoot them does not make you yourself a Nazi, but then that was never really the point when we did this back in Series 1. It was about establishing the emotional impact of the Time War, something which Moffat subsequently undermines, and then not only that, he abandons the thematic progression that comes with retconning the Doctor's genocide on Gallifrey, just because he was that determined to write a darker Doctor for Peter Capaldi, I guess.
Sometimes the only choices you have are bad ones, but you still have to choose.
See, out of context, that is actually a very good line. I admire the themes of Mummy on the Orient Express when viewed in isolation, but it just feels odd to be taking this direction when surely the lesson of Day of the Doctor is sometimes the only choices you have are bad ones, except for when there are children singing. Then I guess you don't have to choose. That sounds utterly stupid, and it is, but if that's the path you've chosen to go down, then at least stick to it, Moffat. Don't try to contrive angsty moral ambiguity where there is none, and it doesn't even make sense for the Doctor to be like that. Again, taken in isolation, Peter Capaldi is a brilliant actor, and the character does really get to shine at times, particularly in his final series. I just can't escape the feeling that Jodie Whitaker's Doctor fits far better into the sequence here in terms of character progression following on from Day of the Doctor. Capaldi makes a fine Doctor, but he shouldn't have been the 12th Doctor.